All right, folks, we got the quick intro video here. All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another week, another episode of the podcast with your man, Bobby Beans. We got Jill in the house right away. Thanks for stopping out, Jill. Appreciate you. Appreciate the wife on the comments. We got the link to our friends at Higher Love in the description or in the comments here for you. Please make sure you check them out. Their menu is updated, I believe, daily. If not very close, you can place your order ahead of time. You can see what they got. So when you go in there, you know what you're looking at in the deli style selection. It all goes down on their website. Make sure you use the promo code, get 15% off your purchase. You get to use that one time, so make it worth your while. But if you haven't got a chance to check them out, please make sure you do and thank them for being a part of this mission. We've got Heath in the house. Hey, Heath, how's it going, man? Hopefully all is well. We got Heather in the house. Randy, thanks for stopping by, everybody. Hopefully you guys had a great weekend. We're kicking off another week. Most of the news today, we'll get to that in just a second. Shout out to also Ignite Dispensary. Thank you for making this thing possible. To the team over there, they are going to have your Wisconsin products that are going to be illegal under the hemp bill or the farm bills. Excuse me. It's considered hemp. You would be very surprised. Please make sure if you haven't given them a shot, you give them a chance. They do have a website online. You can use code LLW20 on their website to get 20% off your order. Otherwise, they're located across the state in Milwaukee, Spooner, Hayward, Superior, Manitowoc, New Richmond. They get it in all across the state. So shout out to them also for making this thing happen. And speaking of that, we'll always thank you guys who stop out here on the nightly to engage in cannabis talk. We here all know it is long overdue. We here all know it's a no-brainer that this should be a thing. But we need to stick together. We need to stay upbeat about it. We need to stay passionate. It's got to get done. So we're just going to keep making noise and keep educating the public. That's what we got to do. So got a few extras up on the shelves. Found the stash box. So excited about that behind me there, if you can see it. Anyways, shout out to the wife. She cleaned the basements very nicely. So appreciate that, hon. She's the cleaner. I'm the destroyer and the fixer of broken. I'm the outside guy. Okay, I do all the yard work outside, especially now that she's pregnant. She used to still like to do some of that, but yeah, she's the cleaner and the organizer. I'm the other guy. So love you, hon. We are down to 3 weeks, folks. I can't believe it. Until our little one, God willing, comes. I'm so excited. What light was perfect, but it was in the way. It's good. All right. We're gonna get into some news. Some crazy stuff going on out there. I was a little disappointed to see this one, so we'll kick it off with this. This is kind of one of the things we've been waiting on as far as very nicely. Yeah, so she does. That's her typing. She organizes, but then I can't find it because I don't organize. I just know where I put things. Well, sometimes. Yeah, it's a whole thing. So we've been hearing about this rescheduling thing for quite some time. One of the fears that I had, and I know a lot of other folks, at least in the industry, and I'm sure a lot of the consumers as well, was, is this being used as a tactic to get votes for the Democratic Party? Doesn't appear to be the case, would be my latest update on that. So I thought we fixed this for the 100th freaking time. There it is. That's the format we're looking for. Article, me, boom. All right, so the DEA has scheduled a hearing on rescheduling, and the hearing is for December 2nd. So that would be after the election. Yeah. Something tells me something's up. I also, I don't know. There's a whole back and forth on if rescheduling is a good thing or not. Excuse me. Obviously, I think the finite answer on that is the details on how they do it. You know, if they somehow just when they roll it out, they open the door for pharma, things like that. Obviously, would be bad. But getting it off of a Schedule 1, in my opinion, would be a huge plus. But regardless, looks like we are a ways out to getting this thing moving forward. Oh no, we got Philip Scott in here. Let's go. Jumping around. We got my birthday. Hey, Heather, happy birthday. You rock. I should have made you a blanket. since you made one for our soon-to-be daughter. Philip says, funny how both sides have been not talking about it, also staying quiet on the farm bill. Boo, right? Yeah. It's something. Well, let's get into this article. The DEA has scheduled a hearing to consider differing expert opinions on the Justice Department's proposal to federally reschedule cannabis, an extra procedural step that will take place after the election. I'd sing you happy birthday too, Heather, but I'm not good at that. After moving to reclassify as a Schedule 3 under the Controlled Substance Act, the CSA, that was obviously back in March when things started to kick off. Then they had their 60-day public comment period that saw more than 40,000 submissions. Now the DEA has reviewed the comments. It agreed to an administrative hearing as requested by several supporters and opponents. So the hearing will be December 2nd, according to the notice that was sent to the Register on Thursday. It's noted here. So it looks like some advocates and stakeholders had hoped the DEA would avoid this additional step and simply move to the final rulemaking. The agency has often scheduled hearings, though, for regulatory proposals of major public interest. Everything with cannabis just gets drawn out. We know it's not a Schedule 1 drug. That should not even have to be a debatable topic. But I fear the reason they're going to have a debate is to keep it a Schedule 1, which I think is worse than getting it to Schedule 3. I'm sure there's some ways that's not a thing, but I would say I think that's a pretty factual statement. So, to me, I think this is not great. I think it just is another trying to move anything cannabis is we're going to make it take as long as possible, like 100,000 years. Not really 100,000 years, but if we look back as far as we can, we would know cannabis was good and used and medicinal. And it wasn't until about 100 years ago all this crap started coming around. But now everything just, hey, if we take long enough, people will just forget about it. No, we're not. We're not going anywhere. I will do this podcast until I am in a wheelchair if I have to, because of age, not because of some freak accident. Until an old age, I will do this podcast. I will make noise. I will bang a drum. I will try to talk to politicians. Whatever. When I see something like cannabis help as many people as I've seen cannabis help over the last 2 years, just the last 2 years, let alone the last 4,000 years that it's been around or documented used, I can't just be quiet. I can't just say, oh, you guys say it's not okay? Okay. No, it's bullshit. Philip says, don't want Schedule 1 period. Schedule 3 is boo-boo still, right? But can actually get grant money to study it. Fair. Cannabis begins. Schedule 1 is very dangerous. It should be moved to Schedule 3, says Jill. It's taking way too long, says Heath. I'll still be watching, says Heather. Let's go. We're going to be here a while, folks. Green Swan says, keep it Schedule 1 or deschedule it completely. I unfortunately feel like, given the state of cannabis affairs, deschedule is a ways out. But I feel that I want to be that way, if you get what I'm saying there, Pete, with Green Swan. So, yeah, it looks like following the assessment, I will designate a presiding officer to preside over the hearing. We will have all powers necessary to conduct a fair hearing. I'm willing to bet the hearing or however this all gets played out is going to be just like anything else is trying to get approved or moved through our government, whether that's a state or federal level. And that is going to be, the Democrats are going to be for it. The Republicans are going to be against it. We're going to waste a crap ton of time, energy, and money, and this ain't going to go nowhere. Unfortunately, that's my guess. Because I don't know what happened to politics, how long ago. I feel like it hasn't always been like this, but I wasn't around. I can only see like news articles and watch old video clips. And I know, Republicans and Democrats weren't like, hey, you're really good. You should take the presidential office. No, you should take the presidential office like party to party, like, oh, I don't want it. You take it, man. But I feel like there's got to be a point where we start working together on stuff where, hey, I'm the Democrat, you're the Republican, vice versa. We're running for president, but instead of bashing the shit out of each other, and if we don't get into office, we're going to for 4 years complain about every single thing that happens and blame it on the other side, or what if, hey, let's do this, man. This will be fun. Let's run for president. Let's go. May the best man win, or woman, obviously. And then if you lose, instead of, oh no, I hate you guys, I'm gonna do everything I can. Unbelievable, unethical. Work together. I digress. So we all flying out in our cannabis leaf suits. Yeah, right. Something. Bobby for president. No, doobie walks. That's what we should do. I could be in charge of maybe doobie walks, education. But man, politics. Unbelievable. I miss back in the day. I remember when I first started understanding, like, you vote for people for president. So I think this was maybe middle school. I remember, like, I couldn't find out who people voted for, or I couldn't figure it out. Like, I remember even asking my dad, and like, he thought it was really neat that I had no clue who he was voting for. And it was like, buddy, you keep that to yourself. You don't, it's just your vote. Da, 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 da. And I remember, like, in high school, there'd be some topics, and I'd be like, hey, what's your take on this? And like, I'd be able to figure out, but he was pretty level-headed, and I would always be like, so who are you voting for? I remember Bush and Kerry or whatever, because Kerry came to our practice field on the football field. So obviously I was like, holy crap, the guy running for president just ran a play with us. He was the halfback, took the ball, ran with it. So of course I'm get home and like, Dad, you got to vote for this guy. And he's like, I can't tell you who I'm voting for, son. What happened to those days? Everybody now, man, I feel like you can tell who people vote for because we got to let everyone know how wrong they are. You know what I mean? Like, we all just need to smoke some green and get together and make some changes as a team. Anyways, rant over for now. I seem to touch on that quite frequently, but I can't help it. And hopefully we just keep getting one person or one, two or three here and there. And hopefully one day politics won't be this messy, or trying to do the right thing won't be this messy. Let's just work together, folks. But here's our update on the DEA rescheduling. We'll see what happens. Keep an eye on it. That's where it's at now. It's basically been put on the back burner for a while, is my understanding. Moving along. Kind of cool. I think this is kind of cool. What are your guys' take? Dispensaries and preach it, Bobby. Let's go, Heather. We're sermon is in session, or church is in session. I'm giving the sermon in the church. You see how this works, Bob? Dispensaries in Michigan are now subject to surprise inspections. I'm going to guess things are getting a little too casual. Like, hey, on the 12th, they're going to come check, so let's make sure everything's clean on the 12th. Is that what's going on here? They're going to try and, like, come undercover to check out your shop? I don't know. Let's see what we got going on here. You guys had sent this over, so. We've got dispensaries that sell cannabis in Michigan will now be subject to surprise inspections by the regulatory agency that oversees cannabis businesses in the state. In my opinion, this would be a good thing, right? I think there should be surprise checks. I mean, if you're playing by the rules and you're doing things right, doesn't matter when they come in, right? Am I wrong there? Beginning October 1st, so we are coming up here. Just outside of a month, the Cannabis Regulatory Agency, again, that's the agency that Michigan has. And reminder, most states are a couple letters different, but kind of does the same thing, in charge of cannabis. They will no longer schedule semi-annual inspections at businesses in the sector, opting instead to show up unannounced. And actually, just to give you a reference, because to me, this is the same as when we were talking about sending... when Harper comes and after a couple months or whatever, getting her a couple days in a daycare a week, you call around and a lot of these places are like, oh yeah, you can come in 3 weeks from now at 1:00, and yeah, let's do it then. That's like, okay, that's when we can go see. But then we had a place that was like, oh yeah, you can stop in anytime. We will show you everywhere. You can see, like to me, that made me feel a lot better once I saw somebody was doing that. And that's how I would take this. If you're able to come in anytime and check my stuff, I would think I'm being pretty legit, right? It looks like Heather agrees, and Jill says, as long as they follow the rules, you shouldn't have anything to worry about. Exactly. So it looks like They're saying that this is going to allow more flexibility for the agency, providing better educations to the licensees for the day-to-day operations, and making sure that they're operating compliantly at all times. These are for all facilities. It's quoted here. Every semi-annual inspection will be unannounced, said Kevin Cook, who works in the enforcement division of the CRA. Obviously, he says here he expects the transition will take some time and we'll have to work out some kinks. But I think this is pretty cool. He says, because we're moving to unannounced inspections, we fully expect that difference will be amplified come October 1st. We don't expect this change to be flawless for your business. It should be, though. I mean, get it together, right? If you're going to be checking them, you should know what you're checking them. I think you guys can do this. Come on, Michigan. Lay that groundwork for Wisconsin, like you have been, at least so far, for successful business models from what we can tell, and giving back to your communities and keeping things priced fairly. Inspections will still be scheduled for other reasons, including pre-licensure, 30-day post-licensure, and follow-up meetings stemming from reporting forms, in case you were wondering. All right, so that's our news from our friends over in Michigan. I wouldn't say that's terrible. This next one, though, got me a little jazzed up, I guess you could say, like our governor in his speech at the DNC when he got a little excited there. My understanding is he's always kind of struggled with the public, talking to the public. Got a little too jazzed up. So the DEA says it can still arrest people for cannabis, regardless of state legalization, but it's not their intent to go after possession cases. Yeah, I was like, we are checking out this article. What we got here? It's from marijuanamoment.net. So the DEA is reiterating that it retains the right to arrest people over cannabis, regardless of state legalization laws, though it's, quote, not our intent, end of quote, to go after simple possession cases. That's according to a spokesperson. Philip says doobies for boobies. I mean, that would probably work. With Ohio cannabis shops now open for adult use sales, the Ohio State University owned NPR affiliate WOSU. We're coming to you, Ohio. Maybe that's their punchline. I don't know. I always like to guess. Asked the DEA about the possibility that students could face federal prosecution for engaging in the state legal activity. The response quoted here is, are we necessarily after the kid with an ounce of weed for that kid or for that group of people? We want to provide information and remind that it is still remains a federally illegal substance and you can be arrested and prosecuted, said DEA spokesperson Brian McNeil. Come on now. Really? We got Javin in the house. What's up, Javin? How you doing, sir? Thank you for stopping by. Well, the DEA is barred from using its fund to interfere in state medical cannabis programs under a rider that has been continually approved by Congress since 2014. Those protections do not apply to adult use markets, despite repeated efforts by lawmakers to expand the policy via appropriations legislation. I did not know that. That's kind of messed up. Why wouldn't they be able to get that approved? Why can't the DEA say, yeah, we will stay out of small possessions for state legal adult responsible use? It's almost as if this whole politics thing makes no sense. The spokesperson's comments also came to the Justice Department, came as the Justice Department, I apologize, works to finalize a proposal rule to move cannabis from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3, as we touched on. It looks like, as congressional researchers have pointed out, the modest reform would not federally legalize cannabis, and most criminal penalties for cannabis-related activities would not change should there be a rescheduling. Yeah, see, these guys. Are we further away from this than I thought we were? Thinking so. Like, how is this still a thing? The U.S. Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, the ATF, last year similarly advised that Minnesotans who use cannabis remain federally banned from purchasing and possessing guns, despite their state enacting legalization. Yep. It's crazy, folks. Absolutely crazy. We have a lot to do, and legalization is just a start. Speaking of that, with our friends over there, our neighbors over in Minnesota, I don't know if you saw this, but Jesse Ventura, the former governor, calls on consumers of cannabis to boycott the state fair. Definitely caught my eye. Don't know about you, but I like to check out state fairs from time to time. And if he's saying not to go there if you consume cannabis, I am intrigued. Philip says, after Waco, should we really listen to the ATF? My wife wants to know. That is a great point. That is a very legit point. It's almost like anything that has 3 letters or similar amount of letters, it's just a big machine out there to make a shit ton of money and confuse people to the point where anything we do can be considered wrong. I swear it's like set up so if all of a sudden we find super success, boom, nope. They're not us. You guys are peons. You didn't follow this rule or that code or this new thing. You know, it's crazy. Makes no sense. We should be helping each other, not tearing each other down. See Waco, literally. Minnesota's former governor is calling out people to boycott this year's state fair because the state fair is prohibiting cannabis use at the venue, but allowing attendees to consume alcohol and tobacco. Interesting indeed. Even though the state enacted legalization last year. Jesse is fired up. It sounds like it. Jesse likes to get fired up. Hey, I do too. Jesse, let's get Jesse Ventura on this thing. Hey, Jesse, if you're listening, which I know you probably are. I mean, it's Monday. What else are you doing on a Monday night? There's no football, man. Not yet. It's coming. Jesse, hit me up, man. I know you're watching the podcast. I know you're out there. You want to see Wisconsin legalized just like Minnesota. We're like state brothers. I get it. Come on the podcast, brother. Let's do this. That'd be dope. I will get you some cannabis. What do you want? I'll get it. I need you, Jesse. Dude, let's write in Jesse Ventura. Let's do it. Well, Jesse Ventura, he's also optimistic about the prospects of federal reform under a Harris-Walz administration. So they had an interview, it looks like on Thursday. Ventura said he does hope that Vice President Harris and her running mate, Tim Walz, advocate for an end to federal cannabis prohibition on the campaign trail, saying that it would be smart for them to do so, given the popularity of the issue. If they would come out and say, this is a quote from him, if they would come out and say they would lift the federal ban on cannabis, I think that could help ensure their victory. There's a tremendous amount of cannabis users out there who would vote accordingly so that they would not feel federally like they are still criminal in any way, shape, or form. I think it would be interesting if they did that, and they would definitely have to be held accountable, which, again, is a scary thing in politics. You can say or do almost anything as a politician, but not actually have to do what you say or said you were going to do. Excuse me. So it looks like here, it's supposed to be, here he is continuing. It's supposed to be legal in the state of Minnesota. How can they outlaw it at the state fair when they allow tobacco and alcohol? And my point being is this. All we ask in the cannabis world is to treat us equally. That's fair. He's right? We just want to be treated equally. Trust us to responsibly use this stuff. We're not looking to get unemployed and collect paychecks because we just want to sit and smoke and do nothing all day, which is what I still feel like a lot of anti-cannabis people say happens when you use cannabis. Treat us fairly. Treat us the same way you do tobacco and alcohol. And unfortunately, that's not happening. We're being discriminated against, even though it is now legal. I mean, he's got a point. Yeah, Green Swan says, can you really trust politicians, though? Right? Jill says, politics are liars. Seeing a common theme here. So he says, all cannabis smokers ought to boycott the state fair. Don't go there until we're given our equal rights and we're treated equally to tobacco and alcohol. It looks like a spokesperson for the Minnesota State Fair confirmed in an email to Marijuana Moment that smoking and vaping of cannabis is prohibited on the Minnesota State Fairgrounds during the 2024 event. Gummies? I mean, don't get me wrong. Smoking, I think it should be as well. But maybe you got to go with the gummy route here, the edible route. Some seltzers. Get you some of that unregulated. Or no, regulated. Forget what it's called down there, Philip. It's been a minute. Javin says, does Minnesota cannabis law prohibit public cannabis consumption like most states? So that is a great question. Heather says, let us free. We are a nice bunch. We are. Like, definitely. We will support our friends and communities. Guarantee you that. The policy is an ordinance with Minnesota law that prohibits the use of... Hey, there we go, Javin. Look at that. It's like you knew where this thing was going and you just want to get out in front of it. I appreciate you looking sharp. This policy is in accordance with Minnesota law that prohibits the use and possession of cannabis in a location where the smoke, aerosol, or vapor of a cannabis product could be inhaled by a minor. The email said the sale of products containing THC and CBD is not permitted at the 2024 Minnesota State Fair. Friendly reminder, hopefully, I mean, don't get me wrong. I think Callie has a lot of ideas that are maybe pretty far out there that they like to try first. But I hope that how they did, we're going to have the state fair out there with vendors and consumption. Hopefully that went all really well and we can start passing that on to the other states. Sometimes California could be a good thing. I don't know that I could make it out there. I feel like they're pretty willing to try anything, and I'm a little more reserved than that. But that's just maybe keeping it real with you folks. I'm just telling you. But like this, all for it. I think that's awesome. Excuse me. So what they did though for tobacco, interestingly enough, here at the State Fair in Minnesota, is they have 18 designated smoking places for tobacco. Why can't we smoke cannabis there? Minnesota. Who's watched Fargo? They really hammer home the Yooper accent like it's a Minnesota. It's funny. I love Fargo. Jill says that is BS, but she says it a little more in depth than just the B and the S. But that is what we got for tonight's show. Just a heads up, folks. There is potential. You guys always get the insight because it's a lot easier to talk to people on the podcast, and I don't have to make a post and stuff. It looks like we're probably going to switch up to one podcast episode a week, potentially starting next week as we prepare for child and that kind of thing. I think that'll be a good thing, though. I think I finally figured out how to make clips, and I know, like for me, man, I watch probably hundreds of short videos in a day, clips. But to listen to a whole podcast, like I love you guys, and I want to keep doing this. But I know we've also got some lifestyle changes, and at least for that first little bit, man, they say you get no sleep when you have a kid, and like I just keep hearing it. Like I'm trying to stay optimistic. Like yeah, I get it, guys. It'll be fine. I'll be fine. But man, I kind of had another talk this morning from somebody, and they're like, "You got no idea how it's gonna be. It's gonna be so rough." I'm like, "Jeez, what a But just preparing. So I will keep you guys posted, though. Philip says, "Dear Bobby Beans, this is those 3-letter agencies. We are watching you. You are now labeled a T word. You're walking a fine line here. Yeah, you're probably not wrong as all my lights flicker, the power goes out, my water pipes start bursting out in the yard. Wouldn't be surprised." We love listening to you. I appreciate you guys. Seriously. Heather says you don't. I had 4. Okay. Pete says you'll adapt, dude. 5 to 6 hours is the norm for me. Oh, God. Fair enough. Well, appreciate everybody stopping out. Reminder. Just as I have 4 kids, it wasn't that bad. All right. I'm going to hold you to that. If they wake me up, I'm calling you guys to deal with them. No, I'm just kidding. Just a reminder, we are just over a month from HempFest. If you're able to make it to the March to the Capitol, that is on the Sunday, the 29th. Really looking forward to that. We're going to have some multiple panels of speakers are going to be on the Saturday. I will be hosting that event. Looking forward to that as well. We're going to have Senator Agard, a few other folks. Philip Scott will be there. It's going to be really cool. Looking forward to it. And then we've also got an event coming up in Waukesha with our friends over at Waukesha CBD. October 19th, there's a wine walk, and Waukesha CBD is a part of it. Woohoo! We are normalizing cannabis. We are breaking barriers. We're figuring out, looking forward to being out there to show some love to our friends over in Waukesha. But with that, let's wrap up tonight's episode. We'll see you guys again on Wednesday. Please keep at it, keep cool, stay elevated, and keep educating your neighbors and friends and your family. We know we all got them stubborn relatives who are still in the Reefer Madness days. So, all right, everybody. Much love from Bobby Beans. We'll catch you again on Wednesday. We're out of here, folks. See you later. The Beans out.